Well, you know what they say. Can't bake a pie without pie.
You're horrible. You're an irredeemable fucking dick.
Now I know what you're thinking. Claude, you say you're going to upload a Bad Guys review and analysis first. And don't worry, I'm just about done with the script for that video because I have a lot to say, so I hope you guys are ready. In the meantime, I wanted to analyze why exactly the three antagonists from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish were all so amazing. I know that sounds odd to do, especially since just about all of them didn't get much screen time compared to all the other villains in the Shrek franchise, and I think that's exactly why it's important to see what DreamWorks did right for these characters. So get some pie and take a seat near the corner, because we're starting off with Big Jack Horner.
I pronounce this batch delicious.
One of the things that director Joel Crawford wanted to emphasize in doing while producing this film was making sure that audiences felt like this was a true Puss in Boots movie. He meant this by making sure that the Easter eggs and cameos weren't distracting from Puss's journey as a whole, and that they were placed expertly in making this world feel much larger. Big Jack as a character and being a magical artifact collector fulfills his part very well. He has King Midas's hand, who was already mentioned in Shrek Forever After since he made a deal with Rumpelstiltskin. Big Jack also has Fairy Godmother's wand and uses it to create his pumpkin stagecoach. He also has the legendary Excalibur and uses the Alice in Wonderland cookie that increases your overall size. All these little references really help give the audience a general idea on how big the world of Shrek really is. Since Big Jack is only known as a nursery rhyme and nothing else, the writers took a lot of liberty in shaping his character. He strives to harness all magic because people favored giving attention to Pinocchio, who was affected by magic, and Big Jack being the literal definition of a kingpin with his success and resources of running a baked goods enterprise is really interesting. It's also a direction that makes sense and doesn't feel forced at all while giving Big Jack a surprisingly intimidating presence. Even though he has a baby face with his chubby cheeks and having a disproportionate body, Jack is probably the most sinister villain that the Shrek franchise has to offer. He's cold, he's ruthless, and has no regard for anyone, even his own crew, the Baker's Dozen, who he only views as cannon fodder. He's literally the final villain that Puss and the gang face in the end of the film. Even Rumpelstiltskin showed some form of empathy to his army of witches, but you don't see that anywhere with Big Jack, which makes a good majority of his screen time dark and very comedic. His interactions with Jiminy Cricket, or Ethical Bug, is some of the funniest highlights of the film and has a lot to do with the performances of John Mulaney and Kevin McCon. Big Jack overall is a breath of fresh air of finally seeing a villain who is evil with no tragic backstory, who's bad and fully owns it. He's the complete opposite of a sympathetic villain. But wait, there's already a sympathetic villain that we need to discuss too, don't we? I didn't realize till sometime later that I didn't focus a whole lot on Goldilocks and the Three Bears in my Puss in Boots 2 review. Goldilocks and the Three Bears are great villains and just how well they bounce off one another. They sound like an actual family bickering and arguing thanks to some extremely talented performances by Florence Pugh, Ray Winstone, Olivia Colman, and Samson Kayo. Goldie as a character is written incredibly well since the writers took the core of her message in her story and integrated an entire subplot, even though it's a message that has been told numerous times. I mean, think about it. Goldilocks' original story is about a little girl who's unsatisfied with nearly everything that is in front of her. Whether it be trying out some chairs, eating porridge, and even napping on the beds are available. And with this version of Goldilocks, she's not satisfied with the family that she currently has because that's not her original idea of a family that is just right. We, the audience, are already aware that the family that she sees in front of her is right for her, but Goldie doesn't see that. What makes this trope work is the fact that the Three Bears don't devalue her reasoning and mindset for wanting a human family. They are devastated for sure, but that's a natural response to hear from someone that you care about. Goldilocks struggles with an issue relating to her identity, clearly shown when she mentions that she's not a bear. How could she ever remain a part of their family? This identity issue is extremely realistic, and it was genuinely heartwarming to see that Mama Bear's immediate response to this was to simply help her as long as it would make her happy. However, even when Goldie has the chance to fulfill her wish of having her family, she gives it up to save Baby, finally realizing that her family was there the entire time. A classic trope. but in this case, one that was executed really well. What possibly helped Goldie come to this realization is because of her interaction with Pedro. He admires her relationship with the three bears and claims that she won the orphan lottery with having a family that clearly cares for her immensely. Something that not just an orphan, but literally anyone would be grateful for. It's a small detail, but definitely an important one as Pedro's message starts having Goldie conflicted on whether she wants her wish to be made or not, as her calm self starts losing control for the first time when her and Baby start arguing once more. It makes sense that Goldilocks was a sympathetic villain. I wouldn't have it any other way. If Goldie and the three bears weren't present within the film, the general atmospheric presence of having Big Jack and Death as the exclusive villains would have not only devalued the importance of the main plot of reaching the wishing star, but also not have our other two villains stand out as well as they did. Having Goldilocks and the three bears in the film made the story just right, and they were fun to watch throughout the entirety of it, just like this other villain. I should probably take back that last statement because Death isn't actually a villain. He's a force of nature that exists to take the mortal lives of those who have passed on, and takes pride in his work. Death serves as the perfect foil character for Puss, and it makes sense as to why. In Shrek 2, Puss throws himself into danger to prove something to Shrek towards the climax of the film, since he needed to repay a debt, which I guess is fair? In the first Puss in Boots film, the same thing occurs when trying to clear his name by stealing magic beans from Jack and Jill, and he still takes pride in his legend status by constantly being in danger and participating in criminal activity before the film. So for a character to serve as an antagonist that highlights the flaws of what we already know Puss views as natural is really creative, and making the audience have a better understanding on how Puss views his life overall in a different narrative stance is really effective in creating the tension between Death and Puss. I say this because this idea has already been done with Shrek and his views on his own life in Shrek Forever After, and it's just amazing, and with this film, it's no exception thanks to Death. One of my favorite scenes is when Puss is talking with his previous lives and starts realizing how much of a jerk and narcissistic he is, and when Death shows up, he fully confesses that he plans to take his last life by force, since Puss doesn't truly value it, especially since Puss laughs at the face of Death. Once the rematch happens, Puss makes it clear that he is fully aware that he can never defeat him, but will never stop fighting for the life that he has, making it even more poetic since you can see the silhouettes of Pedro and Kitty behind him, symbolizing that Puss found a reason to not only keep fighting, but living as well. Death's character is fantastic since he is the main drive to have Puss change for the better, and does so in such a natural way. Even though he was barely in the film, Death's very presence is something that we will all remember. All of these antagonists are just awesome, and it's evident that the writers took a lot of time and care to make sure that each of them had a purpose and were presented in an impactful way. Hopefully these characters will serve as a reference towards other films and what makes a great antagonist work, because as the old saying goes, a story is only as good as its villain. But knowing the entertainment industry, they probably won't take any risks and will continue to serve mediocre experiences for audiences. But besides that, if you stuck around for this long, thanks for listening, and I hope you stick around, because we have a lot more things to discuss.